Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about mono green Tron in Modern. We're going to talk about how to play the deck, card choices in the deck, overall strategy of the deck in this deck tech. So without further ado, let's jump into it. This is the mono green Tron deck. The overall strategy of the deck is to get Urza's Tower, Urza's Power Plant, and Urza's Mine onto the battlefield as early as turn 3 and immediately be able to produce 7 mana. You then capitalize on that with all of these very, very large colorless creatures and artifacts and whatnot, such as Ulamog, Karn Liberated, Wormcoil Engine, Walking Ballista, even the One Ring or Karn the Great Creator, including a Karn board, and overwhelm your opponent with hyper powerful spells. So how do we do that? First off, I'm going to divide up the deck just a little bit to more easily talk about it. So first off is our lands. Our lands, obviously the Urza's Tower, Power Plant, and Mine. Each of them produce only 1 colorless mana, however, produce 3, 2, and 2 respectively when all of them are on the battlefield. Urza's Saga is an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, it gets tap, add 1 colorless mana. Its second chapter has 2 tap, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gains +1/+1 for each artifact you control. And its third chapter is search your library for each artifact card with mana cost 0 or 1 and put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. This card allows us to have an alternate win condition in its second chapter, but also be able to sort of serve as a utility card in its third chapter and just getting more artifacts and getting an opportunity to dig even deeper. We're running 3 forests because we are running a few green cards that allow us to search through our deck for lands and be able to find lands and colorless spells. And we're playing 2 Boseiju just as additional interaction, especially with other Tron decks, but other artifacts and enchantments. So let's go through this other stuff. Chromatic Star and Sphere and Talisman of Resilience are all our color fixing. We're forced to run a ton of colorless mana, but it's really important we're able to cast Sylvan Scrying and Ancient Stirrings. So Chromatic Sphere is 1 mana artifact. We can tap it, sacrifice it, and pay 1 to add 1 mana of any color, draw a card, so it replaces its mana, and you draw a card. Chromatic Star is really similar, however, it says when it's put in the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. The reason we're playing less Chromatic Stars is that there's a lot of effects that make them not go to the graveyard. Specifically, Dothy Voidwalker, which is insane against us out of Scam, can just turn off drawing a card from Chromatic Star. So we're playing a little bit less of that. And we're playing 2 Talisman of Resilience just as an additional thing that we can just play as a mana rock to be able to produce that green mana, also create the colorless mana, can kind of be that little bit extra oomph that we need. That being said, looking at this pile of cards, which is how we get things out of our deck, mostly lands. Sylvan Scrying, 2 mana, search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. That's how we grab pieces of the combo that we don't have yet. Same thing with Expedition Map, 1 mana artifact. We can pay 2, tap it and sacrifice it. Search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Same thing, grabbing pieces of the combo that we don't have yet. And then Ancient Stirrings sort of can grab pieces of the combo we don't have yet, but can also dig through our deck to grab more payoffs. So on green mana sorcery, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a colorless card from among them and put it into your hand, then the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. So you can cycle through your library, grab Urza lands, grab Urza's Saga, grab basically anything in our deck besides these other green cards or Dismembers. This next pile is Interaction. Dismember obviously is a removal spell that we can pay for with colorless mana. What's relevant is we can pay for a black with the black from Talisman of Resilience or pay for a black with Chromatic Sphere, Chromatic Star. Oblivion Stone is our board wipe. It's a 3 mana artifact where you can pay for it and tap it to put a fate counter on target permanent. And you can pay 5 mana, tap it, and sacrifice it to destroy each non-land permanent without a fate counter on it, then remove all fate counters from all permanents. It's a way to wipe the board and stop our opponents from doing what they need to do. Because remember, this is sort of like a combo control deck. And we're playing 3 Relic of Progenitus. There's a lot of graveyard strategies that are pretty good against us, and this is a main deck way to stop that. Also, it allows us to dig through our deck at worst, which we need to be digging through our deck as much as possible. This pile is like sort of our card advantage, card selection pile. Karn the Great Creator is a 4 mana planeswalker. It says activated abilities of artifacts your opponent control can't be activated. That's gravy because that's not the primary reason we're playing it. Its +1 is until your next turn, up to 1 target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its mana value. That's pretty fun, being able to mana up Oblivion Stone or the One Ring, or taking out treasures or stuff our opponents control. But the main reason we're playing the Karn the Great Creator is this -2. You may reveal an artifact card you own from outside the game, or choose a face-up artifact card you own in exile. Put that card into your hand, which is why our entire sideboard are all artifacts. When it says outside the game, in competitive Magic, that just means your sideboard. And so we have this thing called a Karn board, where we're able to play our entire sideboard and essentially use our entire sideboard as a toolbox when we play Karn the Great Creator. And all the cards we're playing in our sideboard are great for all different situations, which we'll talk about when we get there. The One Ring is an amazing 4-mana legendary artifact with Indestructible. This is when the One Ring enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn, which is amazing. It's essentially a fog at worst. At best, it can stop things like Archon of Cruelty. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burn encounter on the One Ring, and you can tap it to put a burn encounter on the One Ring, then draw a card for each burn encounter on the One Ring. So while you lose life when playing this card, you don't lose so much that it's not worth the million cards that you draw off of it and the fog that you get, and you can reset the burden counters by just playing another the One Ring, which you're digging into by activating the One Ring because it's legendary. This allows us to dig through our deck to find pieces we don't need, and then also just like get things to interact, to get payoffs, get all of that stuff. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. And then we have our Payoff Pile. We're pretty diverse on our payoffs. We're playing 2 Wurmcoil Engine, 6 mana, 6/6, Death Touch, lifelink. When Wurmcoil Engine dies, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Worm artifact creature token with Death Touch and a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Worm artifact creature token with lifelink. Karn Liberated, 7 mana, a Planeswalker, whereas +4 is target player exiles a card from their hand, -3 is exile target permanent, and its -14 is restart the game, leaving in exile all non-aura permanent cards exiled with Karn Liberated, then put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. We're playing Walking Ballista, which is an XX00. When it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, pay 4 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on Walking Ballista, or remove a +1/+1 counter from Walking Ballista, deals 1 damage to any target. And Ulamog the Season's Hunger, which is a 10 mana 10/10. When you cast a spell, exile 2 target permanents. Indestructible, when Ulamog the Season's Hunger attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of their library. So Wurmcoil Engine, obviously good in combat. Karn Liberated, really good for exiling specific permanents. Walking Ballista, great against decks like Creativity and stuff, and be able to ping down things that you want to kill, or just act as a kill condition in and of itself. And Ulamog, amazing as a generalized game ender. So the way this deck generally plays out is you spend the first few turns drawing a bunch of cards, creating your mana, and searching out pieces of the Urza lands that you're missing. You then get 7 mana or more, interact with your opponent with O-Stone and this category, maybe even draw a bunch of cards or have some card selection with Karn the Great Creator and the One Ring, and play your payoffs and just finish the game very, very quickly and just overwhelm your opponent with really high quality cards very early in the game. As far as the sideboard goes, and thus the Karn board goes, Phyrexian Metamorph is great whenever you want a clone effect, but the big reason we're playing it is it provides an ability to reset the One Ring. We play it, copy our own One Ring, and are able to sacrifice a One Ring with 3 or 4 burning counters on it. Tormod's Crypt is generalized graveyard hate. Haywire Might is really good against aggressive decks because you can gain life, but also a great card and it's a great early answer to artifacts and non-creature enchantments. Pithy Needle for activated abilities we want to get rid of. Liquid Metal Coating is a really cool effect, whereas 2 mana artifact, target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types until end of turn. The big reason we play this is we'd grab it with Karn the Great Creator, play Liquid Metal Coating, be able to turn like an artifact into a land, or something we don't want them to activate like a Planeswalker into a land. And according to Karn the Great Creator, activated abilities of artifacts your opponent control can't be activated, so if they're an artifact, the activated abilities can't be activated, even if they're mana abilities like lands. And if you do this to a land and then +1 on the land dies because its mana value is 0, because it's a land. So as it turns into a 0/0 and just dies. The Stone Brain is a great abstraction effect. Also, side note for Stone Brain, and people that play Pioneer would know this, is that since it goes into exile when you activate Stone Brain, you can then grab it multiple times because Karn the Great Creator is your sideboard or an exile. Trinisphere is great against decks that are focused on casting things that cost very little. Wurmcoil Engine, just again, if you want a good combat card, gain life, etc., etc. Cityscape Leveler is another really good like kind of finisher that goes alongside being able to deal with non-lane permanents. Sundering Titan, very good against 5-color decks like Creativity or Omnath, being able to just destroy their lands and then you win the game. Engineer Explosives, really good against things like Creativity, or really good against like Rhinos, or really anything that are 1 or 2 cost. Chalice of the Void, super good against decks similar to Trinisphere. Chalice of the Void is really good against anything that spends a lot of things that's 1 mana, like Burn or something, but also very good against Cascade because you can do it for 0, and it's super good against Living End and Rhinos. And then more Walking Ballista, being able to just tutor Walking Ballista to be able to ping things down or finish the game or whatever. Occasionally you side things in. Most of the time when you side them in and don't leave them as a Karn board item, and this is true for every Karn board deck, there are cards that you don't really have time to grab with Karn the Great Creator against certain decks, but instead just like need to draw them in order for them to be relevant. That is Tron. This deck is super, super good at what it does, draws a ton of cards, and is able to tutor things out. I'm thoroughly impressed with the way this deck is after the printing of the One Ring, and is sitting in tier 1 in Modern right now. So if you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.